Hi, Arlena and Alexandria. Hopefully, I'll see you guys on Friday. But I just wanted to go over the social work component of the class. And chapter 1, I put a slideshow up for you. Also, there's a film called Sicko that I'm hoping you guys will look at. It's a good film to sort of an overview of the history, particularly of why the U.S. has decided to have a competitive insurance program as opposed to national health care. And some of those sort of weird history pieces are there. It's a fun film to watch too. So on a topic that's not super fun all the time, there's that. And I have a discussion for you guys to do. The way the syllabus is set up, really after you do that IPE class, you have until the following Friday to get a reflection about that class in. And then it gives you an idea of when chapter reflections are due. So just looking through the chapter, what really stood out to you as interesting, what you were shocked was sort of missing from the book, how you think the chapter is helpful to you, better understanding what you will be doing as a social worker, how it's important to the social work profession. So that's basically, and those you can turn into me via email. So I just wanted to touch on some things from the first chapter that sort of go along with the PowerPoint that I put up for you. Medical social work was one of the first social work groups prior to sort of social work becoming a profession. There were charitable organizations that would go out into neighborhoods and really sort of tell people how to behave properly and be moral, and gave out charity and stuff like that. Around the early 1900s, medicine became more scientific. So the medical education, they moved towards laboratory science and clinical experiences. Before that, it had just been lectures about anatomy and stuff. And right at that time, social work wanted to be considered a profession, so they tried to sort of science up what they were doing. And they worked really closely with physicians. Actually, one of the first textbooks for social workers was written by a physician, Richard Cabot. And he was a fan of Jane Addams and Hull House, and felt like doctors had an obligation to work closely with the poor, but more in the lab, in the clinic, and then social workers would go out into the home. And so he sort of divided that along gender lines. It's interesting and somewhat disturbing, but that's okay. So that was also the time of really awful infectious disease, and they didn't really understand where a lot of that was coming from. So they, like tuberculosis and other things. So people were dying. The poor were particularly in trouble because they were living in very crowded living spaces, and then their work conditions were really not very good. So, and child labor was still with us. There was very little protections at work. It was right at a point where unions were starting to form in the United States and effectively changing some of those things, like having insurance and not being maimed by machines, right? So social workers were a part of that sort of lobbying for there being health coverage, there being workers' rights, children's rights, women's rights, right? That was super crucial at that time. In our area, in terms of mental health, there's some discussion here about mental health institutions. People with mental illness, developmental disability were, hold on, I'm going to have to do another take.